You spent around 15,000 hours of your life sitting in a building that promised to make you smarter. Sit up straight, raise your hand before you speak, don't talk unless called on, work at the same pace as everyone else your age, stop what you're doing the second a bell rings. Now, here's the contradiction nobody points out. That exact list of rules, it wasn't originally written to build thinkers. It was written almost line for line to build factory workers. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Stick around because by the end of this, you'll understand why the smartest people you know might actually be the ones who were bad at school. Welcome back to Always the System Speaks. I'm System, a worm who technically failed every academic subject on account of not having hands, a brainstem, or enrollment, which weirdly might make me the most qualified narrator for this one. Let's start with the most obvious clue hiding in plain sight your entire childhood, the bell. Every 45 to 60 minutes, a sound tells you to stop whatever you're doing, mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-anything, and immediately move to a different room. That's not really how curiosity works. Nobody gets fascinated by a topic in a perfectly timed 50-minute block, but it is exactly how a factory shift works. Historically, that bell and block structure was built during the rise of mass schooling in the 1800s and early 1900s, specifically modeled after the rhythm of industrial workdays, because the entire point at the time was preparing huge numbers of children for factory and office jobs, on schedule, at scale. Same bell, different building, same instinct, obey the sound, not your own focus. Now look at the seating. Rows, facing forward, all eyes on one person at the front who has the information, while everyone else stays quiet and absorbs it. That's not an accident either. It's literally the same layout as an assembly line. One-directional information flow, minimal conversation between peers, sit in your assigned spot, do your assigned task, don't disrupt the row next to you. Even the act of raising your hand before speaking is training a very specific skill, not curiosity, permission seeking. Okay, pause, because if you think that's the strange part, we haven't even gotten to the strangest part yet. You were sorted into a group not by what you were good at, not by what you were curious about, but by the year you were born. Then that entire group was expected to learn the exact same material at the exact same pace and get tested the exact same way, regardless of whether some of you were ready in September and some of you were ready the following June. That's not really how learning works in nature. It's exactly how a batch production line works. Same input, same process, same output on a fixed timer, regardless of the raw material. Now, here's where most videos like this would stop and just say, school is a scam, wake up sheeple, roll credits. I'm not going to do that, because that take is lazy, and honestly, it's a little insulting to how complicated this actually is. Because here's the twist, this system isn't secretly evil, it's just old. It was built for a specific era to solve a specific problem. How do you educate millions of children at once, cheaply, with limited teachers? And it solved that problem impressively well. The issue isn't that it was designed badly. The issue is that the world changed, and a huge amount of the design didn't. So the real question isn't, is school bad? It's, what is this system actually optimizing for? And is that still the thing we need? Let's find out. Look at what actually gets rewarded with a good grade. Following instructions precisely, staying quiet during work time, finishing within the time limit, and producing an answer that matches a predetermined key. Now look at what barely gets measured at all. Asking a question nobody expected, solving a problem in an unconventional way, or respectfully disagreeing with the material. Those things might make you a genuinely original thinker one day, and in a lot of classrooms, they just make you disruptive. None of this means every teacher is doing this on purpose. Plenty of incredible teachers spend their whole careers fighting against exactly this structure from the inside. But the system underneath them, the schedule, the standardized test, the one-size curriculum, was never built to measure original thinking in the first place. It was built to measure compliance, consistency, and standardized output, which again is precisely what a workforce full of predictable, reliable employees needs. Educators actually have a term for this. It's called the hidden curriculum. The stuff you're never officially taught, but you absolutely learn anyway, just from the structure itself. Wait for permission before you act. Value the correct answer over the interesting question. Compete against your peers quietly for a ranked number. Sit still for long stretches because that's simply what's expected of you. You weren't just being taught math and history, you were also being taught every single day what an obedient, punctual, rule-following adult looks like, which is an incredibly useful skill for running a large workforce and a fairly limited skill for building an original idea from scratch. So what does the alternative even look like? You don't have to guess. There are education models that deliberately break every single one of these patterns. Mixed age groups instead of strict grade levels, self-paced projects instead of one-size timers, students choosing what to dive deep into instead of one fixed script for the entire room. The results from decades of research on these alternative approaches are genuinely mixed. Some outperform traditional schools on creativity and motivation. Some struggle with structure and consistency. This isn't a clean traditional school bad, alternative school good story. It's messier than that. But the mere existence of these alternatives proves something important. The traditional structure isn't the only possible way to educate a child. It's just the version that scaled the cheapest, the fastest, in a very different century. Here's the part that actually matters for you, whether you're still in school, finished years ago, or raising a kid who's in it right now. You cannot personally redesign the education system by tomorrow morning, but you can absolutely notice which muscles it trained well and which ones it barely touched. Compliance, consistency, memorization under pressure, you've got plenty of reps on those. Curiosity, original problem solving, comfortably disagreeing with an expert, those muscles often need deliberate, separate practice as an adult because the system simply never trained them much in the first place. That's genuinely good news, by the way. It means falling behind in a traditional classroom was never proof you weren't smart. It might just mean you were being measured by a ruler that was never built to measure the thing you're actually good at. So here's what I'm taking from crawling through this one. Every system on this channel, the gym, the bank, the algorithm, taxes, and now this one, has a quiet design goal underneath the surface, and that goal isn't always help you. Sometimes it's process you efficiently. Understanding the difference doesn't mean you burn the system down. It means you stop mistaking its rules for the only rules that exist. You can still respect what it taught you, question what it left out, and go build the parts of your brain it never had time for. Because, like always, the system doesn't ask permission before shaping you. It just runs. The only real choice is whether you understand it or whether it quietly finishes the job. If any part of this made you go, wait, that's actually true? That's the whole reason this channel exists. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, what's one thing school never taught you that you had to learn the hard way? Until next time, you're always in a system, and always the system speaks.